Dave Jones here again. We're going to look at the A-shaped bar chords in this lesson. Hopefully you've already checked out the lesson on E-shaped bar chords, because they tend to be slightly easier. From my experience, students tend to find the E shapes a little bit easier than, especially than the A major shape. But we'll move on to that as we go along. So the first shape, as with the E's, as with the E shapes, you can play the E major, E minor shape hopefully now, and move them around reasonably well, and are getting used to some of the names of them as well, the dots. So moving on to the A shapes, we're going to start with the A minor shape. The reason being is it's very similar to the E major shape. It's just that everything's down a string. So regular A minor chord. If you don't know this, you really need to check out the open chord lessons. But so we've got our second. We're going to replace our fingers just like we did with the E-shaped bar chords. So instead of playing the A minor like this, fingers 1, 2 and 3, we're going to play it with fingers 2, 3 and 4. Again, leaving our first finger spare like we did with the E-shaped bar chords. Move them up a fret, and then place our finger, again like we did with the E-shaped bar chords, placing our first finger across the frets, across the strings, and rolling our finger very slightly so the bony part holds the strings down as close to the fret wire as possible, but not on top of it, and your other 3 fingers as close as you can to the frets. Obviously you can't put them all exactly as close, because this finger's stopping you from, but as close as you can, and checking strings for clarity. Now the difference with the A-shaped bar chords is the root note is coming off of the A string now, not the E string. So you don't need to bar the E string down, because technically you're putting the wrong note in the bass. Although not out of tune, it's putting the wrong note in the bass. We'll go into that in later lessons. So what you should do is if you can, is have the very tip of your first finger, your barring finger, touching very lightly on the bottom of the E string, and it deadens it, kills it. So if you do accidentally hit it when you're strumming, you're not getting that string ringing. So it's a 5-string chord because your root note's coming off the A string. They work in exactly the same way as the E shapes, and again, sorry for the plug, but on the A-shaped bar chord section of the website under chords, I've got exactly the same as the E. I've got a little graph down the bottom that shows you the names of the notes on the A string at all 12 frets. Again, a good idea perhaps to learn the names of the notes at the dots. So we've got the 3rd fret A string, this is 3rd fret C, 5th fret D, 7th fret E, 9th fret F sharp. And again, it works in the same way. If that's C, if you go up 1, C sharp, that's D, you go down 1, D flat. And again, they're the same note as always as each other. And this is creating the minor bar chord because we're using a minor shape. And wherever we move it, wherever the root note on the A string is, it becomes that chord, only a minor. So that note happens to be at the 6th fret, happens to be E flat. So if I play an A minor shape with the root note on the E string, on the A string, E flat note on the A string there at the 6th fret, that's an E flat minor chord. And again, you need to gradually learn the names of the notes at the dots, and you can kind of work the others out from there. If you remember, there's no sharp between B and C and E and F. So that's your minor shape. Shouldn't cause you too much difficulty if you've already nailed the E major shape, because like I said, it's exactly the same shape. It's just that your fingers 2, 3 and 4 are down 1 string each. The shape that causes the most problems in the A-shaped bar chords is the major shape. Now there's your A major chord, regular A major chord, and obviously you're going to need your first finger to bar, so you can replace fingers 1, 2 and 3 with 2, 3 and 4, move the shape up and then bar across. But in practice this doesn't work too well in changing chords at any speed. So what most guitar players do is they use their 3rd finger to hold the 3 strings down that you would normally hold on an A chord. There's your A, and you hold those 3 strings down all at the same time with your 3rd finger, so a partial bar if you like with your 3rd finger. Move it up a fret and then bar across. Again, we're barring the same way as we did with the minor shape. The first finger's touching very lightly on the E string, muting it, and you've got that's your major shape. So wherever you move that, I can't remember what I said. Oh, there you go. That was your E flat minor at the 6th fret. There's your E flat major at the 6th fret. So to turn it into a major chord, you have to play the major shape. minor shape gives you a minor chord with whatever root note you're holding down, and the major chord gives you, the major shape gives you a major chord. Now, some people are blessed with extremely bendy third fingers, and they can really bend their finger and not kill that string. And it doesn't matter either way. If you're not blessed, no, I'm not particularly blessed with these extremely bendy fingers. If you get that dead sound muted, in other words, your third finger is muting the high E string. We're playing a B chord now at the 2nd fret. That's absolutely fine, because that note's already in the chord and it's not needed again. So, like I say, some people can bend their fingers, and if I concentrate, I can, and get this high E string to ring off of with your first finger holding it down. That's fine, but don't strain your hand away trying to do it. It's not that important. If that note's muted, you don't need it in the chord. What you don't want to do is flatten this finger out so as it's holding 4 strings down and not 3. So you're holding the high E string down with it, because you get a chord, nice sounding chord, but it's what's called a major 6th chord, and it's not the chord we're looking for in this particular example. We're looking at just the regular major bar chord shape. And the idea is to get used to moving these around and get used to the names, particularly the names of the dots, and then work the rest out from there. One of the best ways of learning the names is to transfer songs that you've already learnt in open chords, say, into bar chords. Because like in the E shapes, like I said, you can play every major and minor chord, but realistically it's probably a good idea to be able to play 2 shapes, because when changing, for example, from G to D, which is a very common change, knowing only one shape, you have to go from the 3rd fret to the 10th fret, and the actual voicing of the chord sounds an awful long way apart. Whereas if you know the A shape as well, you could go from the G chord, say at the 3rd fret on the E, using the E string root note, E major shape, to the D chord here using an A string root note and the A major shape. And in practice the chords sound closer together, because they are, but they also sound more connected than flying all the way up the fretboard to achieve a chord by only knowing one bar chord shape. So that the reason for knowing E and A shapes, any bar chord, any open chord can be barred, and I will go into this later with some more lessons, but generally speaking the most common shapes to use are E shapes, E and E minor with the root note on the thick E string, and A minor with the root note on the A string. So the A string, the hardest one that in my experience most students find, is the A major shape. So that's one to slowly get used to, and get used to the names of the notes of the dots. And I might put a song that's quite useful for that sort of thing, so knock on wood, for learning the names of the E and the A shapes. So I may put that up in the near future, and maybe you could learn that and learn the shapes. But you can transfer any of the chords, any songs that you can play. You can transfer, like Wild Thing, for example, A, D, E, D. In open chords it's fairly easy. You transfer it into bar chords, still A, D, E, D, A at the 5th fret on the E string, D, E, D, and just transfer songs that you know, and play them in bar chords instead of open chords, and you'll gradually get to learn the names of the notes, all of the frets, over a gradual process, rather than trying to learn them parrot fashion and spending ages on them and getting really fed up trying to learn them all. So hope you found that useful, and hope you'll learn all your bar chord shapes in the near future. Okay, see you again. Cheers.